The Council's hidden agenda. The Galactic Council's Grand Chamber was filled with whispers and tension. Representatives from hundreds of species sat in their floating seats, arranged in a circular formation. In the center of the chamber stood the human delegation, silent, calm, and unreadable. Their leader, Chancellor Marcus Hale, sat with his hands folded, his sharp gaze moving across the alien ambassadors who were speaking in hushed tones. At the far end of the chamber, Supreme Commander Drax of the Corthan Dominion stood tall, his blue-scaled armor gleaming under the artificial lights. His voice was deep and filled with arrogance as he addressed the council. "Humans," Drax sneered, his sharp teeth flashing. "We have given you enough warnings. The Corthan Dominion is not patient. Your so-called defensive fleets are nothing but rusting metal. Surrender your military power and accept your place under Corthan rule, or be destroyed." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Many alien races feared the Corthan Dominion, an empire known for conquering planets and enslaving civilizations. They had crushed many before, and now they believed humanity would be next. But the humans did not react. Chancellor Hale simply leaned back in his chair, his expression cold. The silence stretched uncomfortably long. The Galactic Council speaker, a frail-looking creature with 6 eyes, finally cleared its throat. "Chancellor Hale, will humanity respond?" Hale finally moved. He looked at Drax, then at the council, and spoke in a calm, measured tone. "Humanity does not respond to threats," he said. His voice was firm but controlled. "We do not seek war, but we do not fear it either." Drax laughed, a low, rumbling sound. "You speak boldly, human. Your kind has no real power. The Corthan fleets are unmatched. Your silence will not save you." Another murmur spread across the chamber. Some alien representatives nodded in agreement. Others exchanged nervous glances. The humans were strong, yes, but compared to the Corthan war machine, they were seen as untested. Hale's expression did not change. Instead, he turned to his advisor, General Riker, who stood beside him. The older man nodded slightly, a silent understanding passing between them. "We should not reveal anything yet," Riker's voice whispered through Hale's hidden earpiece. "Let them believe we are weak. Let them make the first move." Hale agreed. He looked back at Drax and gave him a small, almost mocking smile. "If the Corthan believe humanity is weak, then do what you must," he said simply. The Corthan commander's smirk faltered for a moment. He had expected anger, fear, or at least desperation. But this calm defiance, it was unsettling. Drax snarled, slamming his armored fist on the podium. "Then it is war," he roared. "The Corthan Dominion will not waste words with you any longer. Your fleets will burn, your people will kneel, and your council will bow before us." The chamber erupted into chaos. Some alien diplomats called for peace. Others looked resigned, expecting humanity's destruction. But the humans remained silent. Hale simply nodded and stood up. "As you wish," he said. Then, without another word, the human delegation turned and walked out of the chamber. A secret meeting. Back on Earth, deep beneath the capital city, the human council gathered in a classified war room. A massive holographic table displayed the positions of Corthan warships. They were already moving, preparing to strike. Admirals, scientists, and intelligence officers sat around the table, their faces grim but determined. The room hummed with quiet urgency as data streamed across screens. Hale entered, followed closely by General Riker. The room fell silent. Riker spoke first. "The Corthan took the bait. They believe we are defenseless." A young officer, Lieutenant Ava Reynolds, shook her head. "We can't hold them off forever, sir. Their fleet is too large. Our standard defenses won't be enough." Hale exhaled slowly, then turned to the far end of the table, where an older man in a crisp black uniform sat. Unlike the others, His insignia had no official designation. The room tensed when he spoke. "It's time to activate Project Revenant," the man said. His voice was cold, emotionless. A ripple of unease spread across the room. Everyone had heard whispers of Project Revenant, a classified weapons program hidden from the public, and even the highest-ranking military officials. It was said to be beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. General Riker nodded. "Agreed. We've been preparing for this moment for decades. The Korthon think they are the hunters." He paused, his lips curling into a dangerous smile. "But they have no idea that they are already trapped." The room fell into silence, then Hale spoke. "Begin Phase 1. Across the galaxy, hidden human warships powered up their systems. Stealth platforms activated. Experimental weapons hummed to life. Humanity had been underestimated for too long. The Korthon had made a grave mistake. And soon, they would realize it. The Korthon's mistake. The Korthon Dominion wasted no time. The moment the human delegation walked out of the Galactic Council chamber, their war machine roared into action. Across the stars, thousands of Korthon warships mobilized, their brutal efficiency unmatched by any known species. They were not just planning a war. They were preparing for extermination. Admiral Kraxus, one of the most ruthless Korthon commanders, stood on the bridge of his dreadnought. The fangs of Salrock, the massive ship, over 10 kilometers long, was a masterpiece of destruction, its hull lined with plasma turrets, torpedo bays, and gravity cannons. He watched the holographic display of their first target, Terrace Prime, a human colony on the edge of known space. Kraxus sneered. "Humans are fools," he muttered. "They should have bent the knee when they had the chance." His second-in-command, Captain Zorvac, nodded. "The invasion fleet will arrive in 20 standard hours. We expect minimal resistance. The humans have no superweapons, no secret fleets. They are nothing more than an overconfident, fragile race." Kraxus smirked. "Then let's remind them why they should fear the Korthon." The order was given. The fleet surged forward, 1,000 warships, ready to reduce the human colony to nothing but ash. The calm before the storm. Back on Earth, deep within the classified war room, the human council watched in silence. On the massive holographic display, real-time footage showed the Korthon invasion fleet accelerating toward Terrace Prime. Their strategy was clear: strike hard and fast, break human morale before the real war began. But they had no idea what was waiting for them. Chancellor Hale stood at the center of the room, his expression unreadable. Around him, high-ranking military officers and intelligence analysts monitored the situation. "Do we engage?" General Riker asked. Hale took a long breath. "Not yet," he said. Lieutenant Ava Reynolds, the youngest officer present, frowned. "Sir, if we wait too long, the colony could be wiped out." Hale turned to a shadowed figure standing in the corner of the room. Unlike the others, this man had no name, no rank, no records in any official database. He was simply known as Director Kane, the head of the most classified division in human history, the Strategic Black Operations Command. BOC. Kane stepped forward. His voice was calm, calculated. "They think they're walking into a defenseless colony. In reality, they're stepping into a carefully designed battlefield." A hush fell over the room. Even among the highest-ranking officials, very few knew the full extent of Project Revenant, humanity's greatest secret. Kane tapped a few commands on the holotable, and the real Terrace Prime defenses were revealed. The colony was not what it seemed. Beneath the surface, hidden beneath layers of reinforced alloy, was an underground fortress armed with advanced weaponry, disruptor cannons, gravimetric mines, cloaked missile platforms, and the first prototype of a new energy-based planetary shield. But that was only the beginning. "Bring up the Revenant assets," Kane ordered. The display changed, revealing dozens of unknown human warships lurking in the darkness of space, ships that had never been publicly acknowledged, armed with weapons no alien had ever seen. Their hulls were black, absorbing all light. They didn't have names, only code names: specters, wraiths, phantoms. A few officers gasped. "How long have these been operational?" one of them whispered. Kane gave a thin smile. "Long enough." Chancellor Hale finally spoke. "Let the Korthon think they have the advantage. We strike when they least expect it." The order was given. Operation Revenant was now in motion. The invasion begins. The Korthon fleet arrived at Terrace Prime with the full force of an empire. Their warships formed an unbreakable blockade, surrounding the planet like vultures over a dying prey. Craxus grinned as he stood on the bridge of the Fangs of Salrock. "Prepare orbital bombardment," he ordered. "We will send a message to the humans that resistance is futile." The ship's weapons powered up. Thousands of plasma cannons, railguns, and missile silos locked onto the colony below. The countdown began. 5 seconds until fire. But then, something went terribly wrong. The moment the countdown hit 0, the Korthon ships began to shut down. One by one, their engines flickered, their shields collapsed, and their weapons froze mid-charge. Emergency alarms blared across every Korthon warship. "What the hell is happening?" Craxus roared. His engineers scrambled, trying to make sense of the impossible. Their systems were failing, not from an attack, but from something invisible. Then came the second wave of terror. A new fleet decloaked. Sleek, black warships emerged from the void, appearing like wraiths from a nightmare. Their designs were unlike anything the Korthon had ever encountered. There were no visible weapons, no energy signatures, just silent, deadly precision. Craxus felt his blood run cold. Impossible. And then they attacked. The human revenant ships moved faster than physics should allow, weaving between Korthon warships like shadows, striking before they could even react. One Korthon dreadnought simply vanished, crushed by an unseen force. Another was sliced clean in half by an invisible blade. The Korthon ships tried to fire back, but their weapons would not respond. Craxus watched in horror as his mighty fleet, the pride of the Dominion, was being torn apart without a single human casualty. Desperate, he shouted, "Fall back! Fall back!" But it was too late. Something even worse was coming. At that moment, the skies above Terrace Prime opened, revealing the final phase of the trap. The colossal warship, unlike anything ever seen, emerged from hyperspace. Its hull shimmered with technology beyond Korthon understanding. A deep mechanical voice boomed across all channels. "You thought we were weak. Now you understand. We were simply waiting." The Korthon had made their worst mistake. They had underestimated humanity. And now, they would pay the price. Silent weapons, loud consequences. The Korthon fleet, once an unstoppable force, now drifted helplessly above Terrace Prime. Warships that had conquered entire star systems were disabled, their crews panicking, their weapons useless. Their sensors showed no energy emissions from the attackers, as if they were being hunted by ghosts. On board the Fangs of Salrock, Admiral Craxus' hands trembled as he gripped the edge of his command console. What kind of warfare was this? Korthon ships were designed for brutal, high-energy battles. They had faced plasma storms, neutron cannons, and even black hole weaponry. But this was something else entirely. "Status report," Craxus barked. His engineers were sweating. "Sir, it's not a virus. It's not an EMP. It's something we've never encountered before. Our systems are intact, but they're not responding. We can't even activate manual controls." Craxus' blood boiled. "Then what the hell is happening to my fleet?" Before anyone could answer, the lights flickered. The ship's main screens were hacked by the humans. A face appeared on every single Korthon warship. A human officer, calm and emotionless. "This is High Admiral Evelyn Drake of the Terran Defense Force," the woman said. Her voice carried no fear, no hesitation. Only control. "You entered our space uninvited. You threatened our people. Now you will face the consequences of your arrogance." Craxus's nostrils flared. "You dare." But the screen cut off. Then the real nightmare began. The Revenant ship strike. The human Revenant fleet moved like shadows. Unlike traditional warships, these vessels left no heat signatures, no energy trails. They were specters in the void, phasing in and out of visibility. And then they began the culling. A Korthon destroyer tried to escape. Its thrusters flared to life, engines roaring at maximum capacity. It barely managed to turn before something unseen and unstoppable crushed it like paper. One moment, the ship was intact. The next, it had folded in on itself. No explosion, no debris, just erased from existence. On another warship, dozens of Korthon soldiers screamed as they were pulled off their feet. An invisible force dragged them into the walls, crushing them into pulp. The remaining crew, horrified, fled deeper into the ship. One of them managed to send a distress call. "They're inside. We can't see them. We can't." The signal cut off. Admiral Craxus watched the massacre unfold in real time. His entire fleet was being dismantled, without a single shot fired by the humans. "What is this?" he snarled. His second-in-command, Captain Zorvac, was shaking. It's like they're bending reality itself. We can't fight them. We can't even see them." Craxus refused to accept defeat. "Call for reinforcements," he shouted. "Summon the Dominion's dreadnoughts. Bring every ship we have." Zorvac hesitated. "Sir, no signals are leaving the fleet. They've cut us off from the galaxy." Craxus felt his stomach drop. The humans had trapped them in a dead zone. The final phase, humanity's true power. Then the human supercarrier arrived. It was not a ship, it was a titan. A fortress the size of a small moon, completely black, its surface shifting as if alive. For the first time in his life, Craxus felt fear. The Korthon had always believed they were the apex predators of the galaxy. They had seen the humans as an upstart race, primitive and inexperienced. But this was something ancient, something they never should have provoked. The supercarrier's engines pulsed, releasing waves of gravitational distortion. The smaller Korthon ships buckled and groaned, their hulls warping under the pressure. Then, for the first time since the battle started, the humans fired a single weapon. From the heart of the supercarrier, a single black beam of energy lanced forward, silent, slow, almost unassuming. But when it touched a Korthon warship, the results were devastating. The ship did not explode. It collapsed inward, as if something had reached into it and crushed it from the inside. No debris, no wreckage, only silence. One by one, the entire Korthon armada fell to the same fate. The once proud fleet of the Dominion, the greatest military force in the galaxy, was reduced to nothingness. Craxus could not move. His hands shook as he watched everything he had ever known fade into oblivion. His final thoughts were filled with horror. The humans had never been weak. They had simply been waiting. And now, they had unleashed their true power. The aftermath. The battle was over before it had even begun. The Human Council, watching from Earth, received the final transmission from High Admiral Drake. "The Korthon fleet has been neutralized," she reported. "0 human casualties." Chancellor Hale nodded. "And the survivors?" Drake's expression darkened. "The few that remain are too terrified to fight. They're broadcasting surrender signals." General Riker scoffed. "Let them return home. Let them tell the Dominion what happened here." The room fell silent. Everyone knew the truth now. The galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. Humanity had spent centuries hiding its true strength. The other empires had always assumed that Earth was just another civilization struggling to survive. But the Korthon's mistake had changed everything. Now, the entire galaxy knew. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not outmatched. Humanity was the apex predator they had all feared. And the worst part, this was only the beginning. The true power of humanity, The silence that followed the battle was more terrifying than the war itself. Terrace Prime remained untouched. No cities had been bombed, no civilians harmed. In the span of an hour, an entire fleet of the Korthon Dominion's most elite warships had ceased to exist, without a single human casualty. The few surviving Korthon ships floated in space, their hulls scared not by weapons, but by something they couldn't even comprehend. Their crews were too terrified to even attempt an escape. They had seen the impossible. They had seen what humans truly were. On board the Fangs of Salrock, Admiral Craxus stood in stunned silence. The once mighty commander, a warrior feared across the stars, felt cold fear creeping into his very bones. His warships, his entire fleet, had been wiped from existence like they were nothing. "What do we do?" Captain Zorvak's voice was barely a whisper. His scaled face was pale, his eyes wide with terror. Craxus opened his mouth to respond, but there was no answer. For the first time in his life, he didn't know what to do. Then, the ship's communication systems flickered. An incoming transmission. The bridge fell into silence as the image of a human appeared on their screens. It was Chancellor Marcus Hale. His expression was unreadable, his posture completely relaxed. The humans had just annihilated an entire invasion fleet, yet he looked like this was nothing more than a routine meeting. Craxus swallowed hard. He felt like a child standing before an ancient predator. "Admiral Craxus," Hale spoke, his voice calm, almost casual. "You have a decision to make." The Korthon officer's claws clenched into fists. "You dare." Silence. Hale's voice was not loud, not aggressive, but it carried a weight that made the entire bridge crew freeze in place. "You came into our space," Hale continued. "You threatened our people. You assumed we were weak. That was your first mistake." Craxus' throat was dry. His heart pounded in his chest. "And your second mistake," Hale continued, his voice dropping lower, "was believing that we only just now revealed our strength." Craxus' eyes widened. What did he mean by that? The ancient secret of humanity. Craxus forced himself to stand tall. "Are you saying you've been hiding your true strength all along?" he asked, his voice hoarse. Hale smiled slightly, but it was not a friendly smile. "Admiral, you've conquered countless worlds," Hale said. "Tell me, have you ever heard the stories?" Craxus frowned. "Stories?" Hale leaned forward slightly. "Stories about a species so dangerous that even the first galactic empires swore never to provoke them." The bridge went dead silent. Craxus' mind raced. He had heard whispers, old myths, ancient warnings buried deep in the archives of the Dominion. Legends of a race that had once been hunted, but had turned the hunt against their pursuers. A race that had disappeared from the record centuries ago. Craxus' scales turned cold. No, it couldn't be. "You think humanity only recently became strong," Hale said softly. "No, Admiral. We were always strong." Craxus shook his head. "That's impossible. The Dominion has records of your early technology, your primitive wars, your slow expansion into space. If you had this power all along, why did you never use it before?" Hale's expression darkened. "Because we wanted the galaxy to forget us," he said. Craxus staggered back. The implications were horrifying. Had humanity been hiding their true strength for centuries? Had they deliberately played the role of an average civilization, letting the rest of the galaxy believe they were just another species struggling to survive? Why? And then Hale spoke again, his voice filled with something ancient, something terrifying. "Do you know why humanity has never lost a war?" Craxus couldn't answer. Hale's eyes locked onto his. "Because when we fight," he said, "we do not fight to win. We fight to end." A cold chill ran down Craxus' spine. And then the humans proved their point. The ultimate deterrent. The massive human supercarrier moved forward. From its hull, hundreds of smaller ships deployed. But these were not warships. They were automated drones, moving with inhuman precision, surrounding every remaining Corthon vessel. Craxus knew what this was: a show of force, a demonstration. And then one of the Corthon ships vanished. No explosion, no debris, just gone. Craxus' claws dug into the metal floor. What was that? A weapon your kind could never understand, Hale said. A weapon that does not destroy, but erases. Craxus' stomach twisted. Erases. Hale's expression remained cold. Your ship never existed, Admiral. No wreckage, no radiation, no bodies. Nothing remains. For the first time, Craxus understood. The humans had been watching, preparing, waiting. They had never needed to fight open wars, because they had a weapon so absolute, so final, that they never needed to use it until now. And now that the galaxy had seen it, it would never forget. Craxus dropped to his knees. He had once believed the Dominion was the most powerful empire in the galaxy. Now he understood the truth. Humanity was not just another species. They were the end of all things. The surrender of the Corthon. The surviving Corthon ships broadcast their surrender. There was no negotiation, no terms. The message was simple. We surrender. Please, spare us. The Galactic Council, watching from their distant strongholds, was horrified. For centuries, they had mocked humanity, underestimated them. Now, they knew the truth. The galaxy would never dare to challenge them again. A new galactic order. Chancellor Hale stood before the council once more. The war is over, he said. The Corthon Dominion is no longer a threat. A trembling alien ambassador spoke up. What will humanity do now? Hale smiled. We will return to our home, he said. We will not conquer. We will not rule. The council members exhaled in relief. But then Hale's expression hardened. But if the galaxy ever threatens us again, he leaned forward, his voice calm but unyielding. We will not show mercy. A cold silence settled over the chamber. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity had never been weak. They had only been waiting for the right moment to remind the universe why it should fear them. And now, that moment had come. The ultimate deterrent. The Corthon Dominion had fallen, not through war, not through drawn-out battles, but through something far more terrifying. Absolute, undeniable, overwhelming power. For the first time in recorded history, an empire that had ruled with an iron fist for centuries had been silenced in a single day. Their fleets had been erased, not defeated. Their leaders, once filled with arrogance and bravado, were now begging for mercy. And the worst part, humanity had barely tried. The broadcast that shook the galaxy. Across the stars, the Galactic Council received the unfiltered, unedited transmission of the battle over Terrace Prime. Every diplomat, every leader, every high-ranking officer of every species sat in stunned silence as the footage played out in real time. They watched as the Corthon warships shut down mid-flight, their systems failing without explanation. They watched as invisible human warships moved through space like ghosts, striking before their enemies even knew they were there. They watched as entire Corthon vessels simply ceased to exist, consumed by weapons that defied all understanding. And then, they watched the surrender. The proud Corthon warlords, who had sworn to enslave humanity, who had promised to bring Earth to its knees, were now trembling, their heads bowed, their claws unclenched. The Corthon Dominion, the greatest military force in the galaxy, had been broken in less than an hour. Panic in the Galactic Council. The chamber of the Galactic Council was in chaos. Ambassadors from every major species whispered, argued, debated among themselves. Some demanded immediate negotiations with humanity. Others insisted on forming an alliance before it was too late. One alien diplomat, his tentacle-like limbs twitching in fear, slammed his fists on the table. This is not a victory, he rasped. This is an extermination waiting to happen. Another, a bird-like alien with golden feathers, spoke in a softer tone. We have mocked humanity for too long. They were never weak. They were simply patient. The council speaker, an ancient being whose race had seen the rise and fall of entire civilizations, finally spoke. We must decide our course of action carefully, it said. Humanity does not seek war, that much is clear. But if they are provoked again, we may not live to regret it. The room fell silent. Then, a new transmission interrupted the meeting. A message from Earth. The massive holoscreen flickered to life. Chancellor Marcus Hale's face appeared. His expression was unreadable, his presence commanding. Council members, he began, I assume you've seen what happened at Terrace Prime. No one spoke. Hale continued. For centuries, humanity has been treated as an insignificant race. We were underestimated, ridiculed, and disregarded. He leaned forward slightly. That ends today. Tension crackled in the chamber. No one dared to breathe. We do not seek to rule, Hale said, his voice calm yet unyielding. We do not seek to conquer. But let me make something very clear. Humanity will never again be threatened. A silence heavier than the vacuum of space followed his words. And then Hale spoke the final sentence that would be remembered for generations to come. If you come in peace, we will welcome you as friends, he said. But if you come in war... He let the words hang in the air, his gaze sweeping across the chamber. Then he finished. You will not even have the chance to regret it. The transmission ended, and for the first time in history, the Galactic Council feared for its survival. The fall of the Korthon Dominion. The Korthon homeworld, Varkos V, was once an impenetrable fortress. Now it stood on the brink of collapse. With the destruction of their invasion fleet, their military was in shambles. The warlords who had once commanded billions of troops were now powerless. Their own people, who had always believed in their empire's supremacy, began to rebel. Entire cities turned against their rulers. Military outposts were abandoned, soldiers laying down their arms rather than risk facing humanity's wrath. A coup erupted in the capital. The Korthon Emperor, once seen as a god among his kind, was dragged from his throne by his own people. One of the rebel leaders, a former Korthon general, sent an encrypted message directly to Earth. We no longer wish for war, the message read. We only wish to survive. Will you allow us that mercy? Humanity's response came not in words, but in silence. The Korthon knew what that meant. Their fate was no longer in their own hands. The secret weapon no one knew about. While the galaxy scrambled to comprehend humanity's power, another secret lay hidden. Deep within a classified Terran facility, a scientist looked at a screen filled with complex data. He turned to a superior officer. The Revenant fleet performed as expected, he said. The officer, a man with sharp eyes and a rigid posture, nodded. And what about Project Exodus? The scientist hesitated. It's ready, but are we sure we want to proceed? The officer's expression remained blank. Humanity was underestimated for centuries. That will never happen again. We need to prepare for what comes next. The scientist swallowed. And what do you think is coming next, sir? The officer looked out the window, where the Earth floated peacefully in the void. We revealed only a fraction of our power, he said. The galaxy thinks they've seen our full strength. He turned to the scientist. They have no idea how wrong they are. The scientist exhaled. So, Project Exodus continues. The officer gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. It continues. And with that, the true future of humanity was set in motion. A future that the galaxy was not ready for. A new galactic order. The war was over. The Korthon Dominion was gone. The Galactic Council had been reshaped by fear and awe. And humanity. They had just begun. Across Earth and its colonies, people celebrated their victory, but the leaders of humanity knew the truth. This was not the end. This was just the beginning of a new era. An era where humanity was no longer a background player in the cosmos. They had revealed their strength. They had shown what they were truly capable of, and now the galaxy would never dare to challenge them again. Because if they did, there would be nothing left to remember them by. The secret revealed. The galaxy would never be the same again. The Korthon Dominion had collapsed overnight, its once mighty war machine shattered, its leaders in chains, and its fleets reduced to cosmic dust. But the real fear, the true nightmare, was not that humanity had won. It was that they had never been in danger of losing. The Galactic Council had spent years debating humanity's place in the cosmos, wondering whether Earth's people were a minor species or a rising power. Now they had their answer. Humanity was neither. They were something far more dangerous. The Council demands answers. The Galactic Council's chambers were filled with unrest and fear. For the first time in history, every major species attended an emergency session. Even those who had previously remained neutral, species that had never involved themselves in interstellar politics, were now watching closely. Because if humanity was powerful enough to erase the Korthon, then the question was simple. What else were they capable of? The council speaker, an aged alien with translucent skin and deep-set eyes, cleared his throat. His voice was calm, but the tension in the room was undeniable. "Chancellor Hale," he said, addressing the human representative on the central podium, "the Galactic Council has agreed to grant humanity a permanent seat among our ruling members." Some species flinched at the words. A few had once laughed at the idea of humanity holding such power. Now those same diplomats wouldn't even meet Hale's gaze. Hale, ever the strategist, remained composed. He knew the offer wasn't an act of respect. It was an act of survival. The Council didn't want humanity as an equal. They wanted to keep them under watch. Hale nodded slightly. "That is acceptable." A murmur spread through the chamber. One alien ambassador, his voice shaking, asked the question on everyone's mind. "How long?" Hale turned to face him. "How long what?" The ambassador swallowed. "How long have you had these weapons?" For a long moment, Hale didn't respond. He let the question hang in the air, let the weight of it settle over the entire chamber. And then, with the smallest hint of a smile, he answered, "Long enough." Silence. Complete, terrified silence. No one dared ask further. No one wanted to know the details. The meaning was clear. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for a long, long time. And no one had noticed. The secret history of Earth's shadow war. Far away from the council chambers, deep within classified Terran military archives, an encrypted report was being compiled. It was a history that no alien would ever see. A history that had been kept hidden from the rest of the galaxy for centuries. Earth had never been as weak as it appeared. Long before they ever joined the interstellar community, humanity had known that they were being watched. Alien probes had arrived in the Sol system centuries before first contact was made. Silent, invisible, gathering data. Humanity had found them. And instead of responding, instead of revealing what they knew, they had remained quiet. They had pretended to be ignorant. They had hidden their discoveries. And then, in the shadows, they had prepared. Beneath the surface of the moon, in deep space black sites, in hidden asteroid bases across the system, they had built weapons that no alien could comprehend. Silent warships, ships that could phase out of reality. Weapons that did not destroy, but erased. Eye-driven fleets capable of fighting wars without a single human casualty. They had tested them in secret skirmishes, long before they revealed themselves to the galaxy. There had been other conflicts. The Korthon were not the first species to try to test humanity. They were simply the first to fail so spectacularly. And now, everyone knew the truth. A broken galaxy. The destruction of the Korthon Dominion sent shockwaves through the known universe. Some species, seeing what had happened, offered immediate alliances with Earth. Others, fearing that they might be next, retreated into isolation, shutting down all contact with humanity. And then there were those who were desperate. The remnants of the Korthan, now a broken empire without leadership, begged for a chance to surrender completely. One of their surviving generals, a proud warrior who had once boasted that no species could challenge the Dominion, now stood before the human council on Earth. His armor was dented. His voice trembled. "We were wrong," he admitted. We never should have come here. We never should have threatened your kind." Hale studied him for a long moment. "You thought we were weak," he finally said, "because we never flaunted our power. That was your third mistake." The Korthan officer lowered his head. "And our first mistake?" he asked quietly. Hale's expression was unreadable. "Your first mistake," he said, "was thinking that war was the worst thing humanity could bring. Project Exodus. The next phase. Even as peace treaties were being signed, even as the galaxy scrambled to adjust to the new reality of human dominance, something else was happening in the shadows. Deep within a hidden military installation on the dark side of Jupiter's moon, Europa, a group of engineers stood around a massive, sealed chamber. Inside was something no alien had ever seen. A new kind of warship, a vessel not meant for battle, but for something far greater. The project lead turned to his commanding officer. "Sir, we're nearly operational. But is this really necessary?" The officer's face was unreadable. "We don't just plan for the wars we know," he said. "We prepare for the ones we haven't seen yet." The engineer hesitated. "You mean?" The officer nodded. "We shattered the Korthan. The galaxy is afraid of us. But what happens when something even stronger comes?" The scientist swallowed. "Do you really think there's something stronger than us out there?" The officer's expression didn't change. "I don't know," he admitted. "But I know this. If there is, we'll be ready." The massive doors slowly began to open. And for the first time, Project Exodus was revealed. Not as a weapon, not as a deterrent, but as humanity's first step toward something even greater, something beyond war. Something that no one, human or alien, was ready for. And the galaxy, it could only watch. Because humanity had just begun its rise. And nothing could stop them now. A new galactic order. The war was over, but its consequences had only just begun. The Korthan Dominion no longer existed. The once mighty empire, known for its relentless conquests and absolute military supremacy, had been reduced to nothing in mere hours. The message was clear. Humanity was not just another galactic power. They were the tipping point, the force that changed everything. And now, the galaxy had to decide. Would they stand with humanity, or would they risk standing against them? Earth's silent victory. Back on Earth, the Terran Defense Council gathered for a final debriefing. Admirals, generals, and top intelligence officers sat around the massive war table, watching the final tactical breakdown of the battle at Terra's Prime. Final report, General Riker announced. Total enemy losses, 956 warships eliminated. Surviving Korthan vessels, 42. A few officers exchanged glances. 42 ships out of nearly 1,000. It wasn't a battle. It was a massacre. And human casualties. Chancellor Hale asked. Riker glanced at his datapad. 0. Silence. No cheers. No celebration. Just the quiet realization that they had crossed a threshold no species had ever crossed before. For the first time in history, an entire fleet had been erased without a single loss of human life. Hale leaned forward. His voice was calm, almost distant. The galaxy is watching us now. They don't just fear us. They don't understand us. Riker nodded. And that's what makes us dangerous. For decades, humanity had been underestimated. They had let the galaxy believe they were just another upstart species. That illusion was gone. Now the question was, what comes next? The Galactic Council's dilemma. In the heart of the Galactic Council's Grand Chamber, the most powerful species of the known universe struggled to decide their next move. Some were eager to form alliances with Earth, hoping to secure protection. Others feared that humanity's next move could be the end of everything they knew. A Koravian diplomat, one of the oldest members of the council, spoke first. We must come to terms with the reality before us. Humanity did not just win a battle. They rewrote the rules of war. A reptilian ambassador from the Selneri faction hissed in frustration. They didn't just destroy the Korthon fleet. They erased them. We still don't understand how. If we allow them to continue unchecked, what happens when they decide that we are a threat? Another ambassador, a feline-like being from the Valkyrie Republic, leaned forward. Then we ensure that we are never seen as threats. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The Valkyrie diplomat continued. We offer them something that ensures they remain in peace with us, something they cannot refuse. The speaker of the council, ancient and wise, finally spoke. Then it is decided. Humanity will be offered a place among the highest seats of the council. We will treat them as equals, as allies. Because the alternative... His voice trailed off. There was no need to finish the sentence. Everyone knew the alternative was annihilation. Humanity's response. A direct transmission was sent to Earth's leaders. The offer was simple. Humanity would be granted permanent council status, the highest political and military recognition in the galaxy. It was a move meant to appease Earth, to keep them under control. But Earth's response shocked everyone. Chancellor Hale, standing before a live broadcast that was transmitted to every corner of the galaxy, declined the offer. The Terran Republic has no interest in ruling the galaxy, he said, his voice unwavering. We do not seek to govern those who are not our own. Murmurs of confusion and relief spread through the council. Had they miscalculated? Were humans truly not interested in power? But then, Hale's expression hardened. But let me be clear, he continued. We do not need titles. We do not need positions in your council, because we are already in control. The chamber fell deathly silent. Hale leaned forward. The Korthon learned this lesson the hard way. They thought they could force us to submit. They were wrong. And so I offer this final warning. Do not mistake our mercy for weakness. Do not assume that because we seek peace, we are incapable of war. Because the next time someone dares to threaten Earth, to threaten our people, there will be no survivors. The broadcast ended. And with it, the balance of the galaxy shifted forever. Project Exodus. The final phase. Even as peace settled across the galaxy, humanity continued to prepare for the future. Deep within an unmarked Terran research facility, hidden beyond the edge of charted space, the most classified project in human history was nearing completion. Project Exodus. Inside a massive underground chamber, a lone scientist stood before a viewing platform, staring at something so enormous, so advanced, that even the Revenant fleet paled in comparison. Behind her, a high-ranking military officer approached. "How close are we?" he asked. The scientist, still staring at the monstrous structure before her, barely whispered her response. "Sir, it's operational." The officer exhaled slowly. "Then we proceed." The scientist hesitated. "But the Council believes our Revenant fleet was our greatest secret. If they find out about this..." "They won't," the officer interrupted. His voice was cold, certain. "Not until we want them to." The scientist swallowed hard, nodding. She looked out at the colossal warship before her, far larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. A vessel built not for battle, but for complete and total domination. Its hull was made from an unknown alloy, absorbing light like a black hole. Its weapons were classified, its propulsion system capable of reaching distances that no known technology should allow. Its name had not been revealed to the public, but internally it was called the Oblivion-class supercarrier, and it was humanity's final safeguard. The officer placed a hand on the viewing glass. His voice was quiet, yet heavy with meaning. "The galaxy thinks they understand us now," he murmured. "They think they've seen our full strength." He turned away. "They have no idea what we're truly capable of." The scientist let out a slow, shaky breath. And deep within the chamber, the Oblivion-class supercarrier powered up for the first time, its energy signature unreadable, its presence nearly invisible. Project Exodus was complete. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's power. But this was something else entirely. And if the day ever came when Earth was truly threatened, this would be the weapon that ended everything. Forever. The final warning. For now, the galaxy was at peace, but every species, every empire, every ruler who had once doubted humanity, now lived in fear. Because they had learned the truth. Humanity was not a race to conquer. They were not a people to oppress. They were the end of empires, and if war ever came again, there would be no survivors.